Alright, now let's talk about unit in Three Houses. Now, which units should you actually use, recruit, and let die if anything demands it to save something else? Now, the must recruit units, which are also some of them are easy to recruit in this list. Some of them are here just because they're free to recruit. Must recruit units: Lawrence, Lycitia. Those two come together, one without the other cannot work. Basically, you recruit Lawrence not because of him, but because of his Paralog. You must not let him die before his Paralog, basically. I don't recommend... I basically recommend sacrificing some other unit instead of him if you don't have... If you haven't completed his Paralog yet, basically. If you have, then you can let him die, no problem, no issues there, because he's kind of a weak unit to train on. You can use him, I'm not saying that you cannot use him, he's just much weaker than some of other options. Lycitia is just basically here to use Lawrence's stuff. Versus Lycitia just one-shots almost everything in this game once you get over the half of the game. Even before the half of the game, actually. It starts one-shotting like chapter 10, 9, something like that. She becomes crazy. She's also like the best warp unit, which is even more important actually than just one-shotting units, because you can have one good combat unit and that's all you need in this game, really. But warp... There is basically no unit that can warp so far that Lycitia can, and basically no unit that can actually warp good enough unless you count Lycitia in. Because the only unit that can warp very good without DLC, of course, is Linhardt. He's also decent, but Lycitia just warps almost twice as far, so there's no competition here, you just use Lycitia. And then you have basically... You wanna recruit Ingrid because of her Paralog and the items she recruits, the same as Lorenz. You can drop her after that, it's no problem. Or just keep her as an adjutant if you have nothing else to do. Or if you lose some units, you can just put her in as a filler. Then you basically have Shamir. She's a free recruit once you reach level 15. She's also the best sniper in the entire game. Second maybe to Felix if you put him to sniper, but Felix is very flexible unit and very good, so he doesn't need to be sniper to be good. Shamir kinda needs to be sniper. I never recommend basically Iron Man runs and no Divine Pulse runs. And Maddening mode, of course. I don't recommend going into Bow Knight. I recommend basically ending with a sniper class if you go bow route, because sniper is just better. Hunter's Volley is just so good, it kills units. And Shamir has such high dexterity that she's just gonna crit some units and she's gonna be extremely powerful. She's basically one-shotting almost everything, hitting almost everything, she almost never misses. If you put Killer Bow on her, she just kills everything. She's just insane. Same goes for Felix actually, so he's the next one you should probably recruit. But Felix can go into War Master as well, so he has a little bit more flexibility here, and Grappler could also be a good class to end Felix on. I usually like to go War Master anyway, just because of quick riposte and speed on enemies being so high on Maddening mode that it's just crazy. And also having higher threshold in terms of stats. But there's nothing wrong with staying Grappler and using his Fierce Iron Fist ability, which is also similarly strong to Hunter's Volley. A little bit worse in my opinion, but almost similarly strong. Hunter's Volley is really that great because of +1 range, and Sniper's already having +1 range, so it's +2 in actuality. As well as just giving you plus hit and plus crit, which is just crazy effective against flyers. Which honestly in this game, Pegasus Knights on Maddening mode, yeah, those are enemy ones, those are just crazy stats. You kinda need at least one sniper in your team to deal with that. I also recommend recruiting Hilda if you can. Mostly it's not gonna be necessary because maybe on Blue Lions only. On other routes it's a bit whatever. Because on Golden Deer you already have her, so you have her for free. You just wanna use her of course because she's one of the best units. On Blue Lions you can recruit her normally, no problem. On Black Eagles it's a bit of a problem actually because on Edelgard route you cannot recruit her, and on Church route you get her so late that she's still one of the better units, but she's much worse than Hilda if you recruited her earlier, so it's not that necessary anymore on those two routes. On Black Eagles it's not necessary, but I recommend recruiting her on Blue Lions and just use her for what she's worth. She has also a free going into Wyvern, so why not just use her, put reposition on her, and even if she would have, even if you get screwed Hilda, you still can reposition enemies and counter, which is worth a lot on its own. Now the next one you should recruit, it's of course Catherine along with Shamir, although Catherine is not really a long-term unit. She can be used as a filler if you don't have other units that are good, because she's good unit. She's not bad unit as opposed to some other. There is not really a bad unit in this game, it's just they're okay units only. That's what Catherine basically is. She's an okay unit. She's actually above okay unit. I would put it that way. She's basically not close to Shamir in strength. Her weapon has bad hit rate. Her weapon's combat art is a bit questionable on its own, because early game, yeah, it would be good, but late game it's just useless. And you probably wanna use her weapon on your main combat unit, which is most likely either gonna be the main lord, either Violet or the other one. Hanneman and Manuela you just wanna recruit because of the Paralog, and they're free as the other units are, so it's just no questions asked. The same goes for Alois, although Alois is, if you missed him to recruit him, it doesn't hurt much. You don't need him. Because Paralog unlocks anyway if you have Shamir, so units that you should recruit, that are not really must recruit, but you should recruit them. Sylvain. Almost put him into must recruit, but you at least should recruit him. One of the best units with swift strikes, it's just such a good ability. He can always be either a flyer or a paladin, whichever role kinda you miss on your team. I usually recommend going into paladin instead of flyer, just for Sylvain and Ferdinand. Going to A rank lances kinda takes a lot of grinding. So if you wanna naturally get into it, you're gonna have to sacrifice on something else. And if you go train flying, you're gonna get swift strikes very late. Either you're gonna get swift strikes very late, or you're gonna get transformed into flyer very late. Which is kind of defeats the purpose of flying at that point. It's more natural just to go into paladin, it's easier. So I recommend that instead for those two units. But if you need a flyer, just also go flyer. Setet can easily fill up that role, so... And Setet is also similarly good to Sylvain and Ferdinand. Basically, they're pretty much the same unit, except that Setet is always a flyer, because it's just his natural path. There's also a few units, like Cyril, that are good units. Actually, I'm gonna say it that way. Cyril is kind of a better Ingrid, I guess. His strength and speed are similar to that of Ingrid, and his stats are similar, but he gets point blank volley, which is like the same as Leone gets, but he gets it faster, so that has value on its own. So he falls in the same category as Catherine. He's basically above OK unit, but his stats leave a lot to be desired, so I usually don't use him in the end. Either there is no space in my team, or he just accidentally dies because of his low stat. Now Leone, she's much better than Cyril, she's just a better version of Cyril. And Ingrid for that matter. She has point blank volley, I usually put her... Leone is kind of flexible. Because she gets point blank volley, she can very easily ignore the sniper class. She doesn't need to go into sniper class like Shamir has to. She can go into flying class instead. That's basically what point blank enables the unit to do. That the unit doesn't need to go into archer class, they can go into flying class. Which is just the best class in the game, obviously, so it's very good to just get that ability in the flying class. Yeah, point blank is a bit worse than Hunter's Volley because of the range limit, but it's similar enough so you can sacrifice sniper for flyer. And I recommend Leone to go into flyer always, and unless you want her to get into sniper, that's also a really good ability. There's nothing wrong with that, honestly, so basically choose. If you have enough flyers, go into sniper. If you feel like you need another flyer, you go into flyer. There's almost no such thing as too many flyers, so there's that also. So you should definitely recruit Leone. And the final one that you should definitely recruit is Linhard, because he's the best healer in the entire game, because he has warp and physic. You almost need one healer with physic in this game, because at some point you're gonna need to heal on a distance. And Linhard just gains both warp, which is one of the best abilities in the game, and physic, which is the best healing ability in the game. So he just fills up that role. And then the one you should just turn into a dancer should probably be an addition to your team, not really your main healer. So you should have both. So I kinda recommend, like, a few units that are good dancers, in my opinion, are Flame. Dorothea is kind of a free dancer-ish, but then you have to use some other unit with physic instead. Plane is really good because she uses rescue, and she can basically stay behind, and rescue is pretty good actually. It's just good addition to that the dancer should have, because dancer should never see combat, so defense doesn't matter, so usually healers are best dancers as well. And you don't really need dancer to ever heal, so I feel like something utility wise like rescue really fits good in that criteria. So Flame is a really good dancer, then you have Dorothea, then you have how did I forget her name? The Golden Deer healer, god damn it. I'll put it out there post editing. For some reason I just forgot her name right now. But you should definitely... She is also a good dancer. So those are some good dancers. You can also put Ingrid in a good dancer, that's also not bad. You don't use her as a flyer. Basically, dancer slot is quite flexible, but the best dancers are definitely Plane and other units that have physic or some other good utility heal item. Mercedes is kind of okay healer, but Linhardt is just better because of the warp, and Fortify means nothing almost. Very rarely it's useful. So, and you have so many healers in this game that use physic that Mercedes is actually one of the worst ones at that. But her physics are strong, so she can also feel good space in the dancer category. But I think Plane might be the best one of them. And then some nice units to recruit are definitely Petra and Ignat. Petra is good Wyvern Lord or an assassin basically. Choose one. If you need flyer, just put Wyvern Lord. If you don't wanna train her, you just wanna use her for free, I recommend Assassin because Shade is so good. If you combine it with Impregnable Wall, Blessing or something like that of an ability. Stride maybe even. It basically enables your unit to go in the line of combat and protect your units with Impregnable Wall without risking that unit of getting killed. Because you want Impregnable Wall to survive, not really a unit, but mostly a battalion. So that's why Petra is really good, as well as Ignatz if you recruit him. In Golden Deer it's a bit iffy though with Ignatz, because after the time skip he just joins with Lorenz, I think, on the worst spot imaginable. So they're very likely to die, so on Golden Deer route I would even dare say don't train either one of them. Cause unless you're pretty sure you're gonna keep them alive in that post-time skip map, but it's just too much of a hassle for both of them. Although Ignat is a good sniper because of his additional hit rate ability and other stuff, it's still not the best. If you count which units you can afford to lose, I'm gonna go that far to say, because at some point you can definitely get into a very difficult situation where you have to, where you maybe fuck up and you have to choose one unit. You can protect one unit, but that makes the other unit die, for example. So in that case, you definitely want to save units like Dancer, Gambits like Impregnable Wall and Blessing, Stride if you only have one left, but if not, then Stride can go. Lycitia, definitely you don't want to lose for the warp options, as well as one-shotting, it's not bad. On Blue Lions, you definitely don't want to lose her, because I have one very reliable strategy for the final two maps, which just require warp user like Lycitia, and she's the only one that can warp far enough. So you don't want to lose her on Blue Lions, that's for sure, if you want to use that strategy. And that strategy is pretty much... the last two maps on Blue Lions are brutal, and this just saves you a lot of hassle. So I recommend that strategy, which I'm gonna show in another video. You definitely don't want to lose too many good combat units. And I always recommend putting all the stat buffs into one singular unit. On an Iron Man on Maddening, just choose one Lord. It's either Byleth, Dimitri, Claude, or Edelgard. Mostly I recommend choosing units other than Byleth unless you're playing the church route. So choose Byleth, put all the stat boosters, everything into him on church route. On every other route, use the other main lord and put everything into him. Dimitri is definite choice on Blue Lions, that's not even a competition. Edelgard is a definite choice on Black Eagles because of her X ability, which enables her to basically move again. And then Claude versus Violet, that one is much closer. In that case, you can choose either one, it's fine. But just choose one, because on Maddening, it's too brutal to spread experience. It's not really experience that's the problem, it's mostly don't spread stat boosters around. Unless magic stat boosters, which melee units don't need, just put those on Lycitia, that's easy, but other stuff, yeah, don't spread around. Two units that you don't want to bother to recruit are Ferdinand and Caspar, except if you get them in Black Eagles for free. But if you want to recruit them, don't. Caspar is one of the worst units in the game, even though this game doesn't have bad units. He's not great. And Ferdinand, although he's good, the requirement to recruit him is just way too high. Because you cannot get B rank before the time skip with him, so it's a bit of a hassle. So, yeah. The units that you also don't want to lose are Lawrence, Ingrid, Plain Setet, Hanuman, Manuela, Catherine, Ash. But all of those units that I just listed, those units can die and are pretty bad, to be honest. Mostly I never use any of them. Setet is really good, and Plain I usually use as a dancer, but usually I don't use any one of the other units because they're not that great. But you need to finish their Paralog before, because Setet, I already said, the best battalion, combat flying battalion in the entire game. Ingrid, the second best flying combat battalion, and you want to have at least 2 flyers. Ingrid also gives you Ruin, so Lawrence gives you Thyrsus, so that's easy choice there. Ash gives you +1 movement stat booster, as well as Catherine. Hanuman, Manuela, they give you... I think you get Retribution from their quest, as well as one of the best gems, which is Experience Gem, which just raises your experience gain, which is just one off in the entire game. As well as you can get Rapier from that quest, and that's also one of the better swords in the game. So don't lose Hanuman, Manuela before you complete that quest. After that you can lose them whatever you want, no problem after that. Ash, Catherine, like I already said, +1 movement. And Shamir and Alois, those two are kind of debatable because their quest doesn't give you much important stuff, but it gives you a little bit of stat boosters, and it's very easy to complete if you have a flyer that's very high stat boosted, and the warper like Lycitia, so you kinda want to complete that chapter. So yeah, those are really important units, and nice units not to lose are also Felix and Sylvain because of their Paralog gains. They're not the most important in terms of Paralog gains, but they're nice to get. Also, in terms of Paralogs, I would recommend doing all the Paralogs after Chapter 7 or somewhere around that. But do every Paralog before the time skip because they're not that difficult. If you actually go and check out, and if you actually use Flyer as your main combat unit, like main lord, you should be able to warp skip Felix's Paralog and then Shamir's Paralog, so that shouldn't be as well as Lawrence Paralogs, so that shouldn't be really hard to do. Other Paralogs are not that brutal, so... Oh, and definitely change Manuela into Flyer before her Paralog, because you're just gonna lose her if that happens. And she's a game over condition in that Paralog specifically, so... Watch out for that, just change her into Flyer, as basically before you start her Paralog. And do all the Paralogs before the time skip. But after the time skip, I recommend just skipping all the Paralogs that come after, because either they don't give you enough rewards at all, like they're shit, or if they give you, they're just too much of a hassle to complete, and you don't really need them, those bonuses that you get from Paralog that desperately, so you can just afford to skip them. So just skip everything after the time skip and do everything before the time skip, and you should be fine in terms of Paralogs. In terms of stat boosters, basically I recommend this: pale blue flowers always at the start, as much as you can. As soon as you get availability to them, as soon as you can buy them, just every time you explore, put pale blue flowers in. So you get speed stat booster, and that's very important. Put all of those stat boosters on one singular Lord unit that's gonna be your main combat unit. On Blue Lions that should be Dimitri, and on Black Eagles that should be Edelgard, but on other two routes you choose. It's either Violet or Plot. And also Purple Flower Seeds, also put that one in. Once you feel like you have enough speed that you can double everything, that's the time you basically start putting on Purple Flower instead of Pale Blue one. Because Purple is strength stat boosters, and basically strength and speed are the only good stats that you can get from the gardening, in my opinion. There is also mixed herb seeds that you get only early, that you get a lot of early game, and at that time you don't have access to purple flower seeds and pale blue ones. At that time just plant those, because they also have a chance to give you a strength stat booster, the same as purple flower seeds. Basically mixed herb seeds also work. So those three are the types you should always plant. And don't forget to plant each time you explore. If you don't have money, just try to get money in the exploration phase somehow. Like you can always do some arena or even fishing in the worst case scenario. I kinda recommend grinding at some point your weapon experience. For example, don't grind too much because it's gonna become boring and annoying, and once you die, if you actually play an Ironman run, you'll just feel like a dumbass wasting hours. Just do a few quick grinds. This is no more than maybe an hour altogether. The point is to get weapon experience and flying experience and those stuff on units that you wanna change into specific classes. There's definitely some classes which I'm gonna go over in the next video, which are you need to get into, and you need some weapon training, because some units like Dimitri just don't have good proficiencies. Dimitri has better proficiency in axes, and you just need him to get X rank pretty high, so you'll just have to grind there. Now grinding should be pretty easy. You just basically, the most optimal strategy is if you can find the bishop on side map, some sort of side map. You just abuse his Nosferatu, but try to position yourself so that he'll put himself in the forest, and once he uses up Nosferatu, you're gonna have pretty low hit rate if you use broken weapons on him. So just use broken weapons on him, and each time you miss you gain a little bit of weapon experience, and then you'll just be able to quickly grind, just turn off animations, and in 10-15 minutes you should get pretty high ranks, and do this every time until you have enough. Basically watch out that you don't spend more than 99 turns, because then you get a game over, but everything before that, just spend as many turns as you want, and it goes by pretty quickly in my experience, so not a big deal. But don't grind with normal experience, because you'll get enough of this, and stat boosters are more important in that case. You just wanna grind the weapon experiences. That's the only important stuff, to gain some skills and to gain some classes. Basically, I'm gonna go into good classes in the next video, so I'll see you guys in the next one. That was all for the optimal kind of setups for your units, and who should you recruit, who should you not recruit. Basically, the units I didn't mention, they're just average, so they don't stand out in terms of being bad, and don't stand out in terms of being good either, so you can always recruit them, it doesn't hurt you. Also, what I've noticed is that it's actually nice to recruit non-royal units, basically without a crest. Each unit gives you a random stat booster. It's not random, it's actually predetermined, but each one of those units give you one stat booster. It's predetermined. I think Ash gives you, like, I don't know, speed or something like that. But it's predetermined. Each one of those units give you one stat booster. But the units with crest give you just 1000 gold. It's not bad to recruit everything that you can recruit, basically. It doesn't hurt you. You always have throwaway units in that case, and some more money. That booster doesn't hurt. So yeah, that's all in terms of units and stats. So see you guys in the next video, when I'll talk about more detailed which classes should you use and stuff like that, and abilities. So see you guys then. Bye.